Hey, this is Ant bringing you another Unreal Engine 4 tutorial. So in this video we're going to go over how to set it so that a designer can place a sprite into the world and choose whether it's on the same axis as a player or if it will appear effectively in front or behind the player. So I'll quickly demonstrate that now. So currently this ledge here is on the normal layer, so y equals 0. If I choose the actor, and you see in sprite settings I've got a normal layer, I'm going to drop it onto the background layer. Background layer is minus 350 on the Y. Hit play, and as you can see the player character now appears in front of that sprite. If we go into it again, choose the foreground layer, hit play, and the player character is now behind the sprite. So without further ado, we'll go into this now. Okay, so the first thing we need to do is go into Visual Studio. So if you haven't got that open up already, if you just go into the C++ classes, tutorial 2D construct, and then double click on sprite actor. That should load Visual Studio up. And then we want the sprite header file, the sprite actor header file. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to create an enum for this. So this will allow the designer to basically choose a value via name rather than just selecting a value. So for this, it's going to be a enum brackets, and underneath this I'm going to have an enum, and I'm going to call this e sprite layer, open brackets, and the first one I'm going to call is normal layer. So this will be the y equals 0. Next one is background layer, and this will be minus 350. Next one is foregrounds, and the last one I'm just going to call that debug. Okay, so that's basically represents the four options that a designer can pick depending on what layer they want the sprite to go on. So next thing I need to do is I'm going to add a public property. So uProperty, open brackets. I want it so that only the designer can edit this particular value on the instance. So I'm going to make the category sprite settings, and then you want to type in tenum sprite enum e sprite layer, and I'm just going to call this sprite layer. Okay, so what I want next is I want some private variable. So the first one will have a uProperty, visible anywhere. Oh, mistake there. I'll have this so it's visible anywhere, and it's going to have the same category. Equals sprite settings. It's going to be a float value. I'm going to set this as normal y, and this will represent the normal normal layer on the sprite layer. So I'm just going to quickly copy this header over to save time, because they're all going to be pretty much be floats, just different names. Backgrounds y, Control V again, and this one's going to be foregrounds y. Okay, so that's pretty much the header file done. So in the next part we'll go into the .cpp file and populate the methods in there. Okay, so the next thing we need to do is populate the .cpp file for the sprite actor. So if I go into the .cpp file now, we need to go into the constructor and start initializing the variables. So when this actor is created, I want the default sprite layer to be normal. So sprite layer, colon, normal. Next we need to initiate the y values, so normal y equals 0, so that's the same plane as the player character. Background y is going to equal minus 350, and foreground y is going to equal positive 150. Okay, now those values have been initialized, it's time to modify the onConstruction methods to basically take into account those choices. So we're okay here on the base call, super call there. The vector position, actor location, that's fine, but we just need to get rid of this now because we're dealing with multiple values. So what we're going to do is we're going to switch on the enum. So if you type in switch, I'm not switching on sprite layer because that's the variable, and we're going to go through the different cases. So first case is going to be normal or normal, colon, position y equals normal y. Break into that. Next case is background, colon, position y equals background y. Scroll down a bit. Case foreground position y equals foreground y. Break. And also I forgot to add a break in here. And then last but not least, case debug, and we'll just leave that blank for now. Okay, Control Shift and S to save, and then what I'll do is that's all the code that we need. Go back into Unreal, we'll hit compile. Okay, that's compiled. Okay, so now it's time to demonstrate the sprite actor code. So I'm going to right click on sprite actor, create a blueprint. I'm going to select the blueprints folder. I might just call this sprite actor edge. Create the blueprint class. Dock that with the top. Let's do the sprite component. So we've got something visual. I'm going to choose ledge. Hit compile, save that. And what I'm going to do is I'm just going to drag this into the world. So by default this will go onto the normal layer, so that's y position equals 0, same as the player character. But if you scroll down, you'll now see a new sprite settings tab with normal, background, foreground and debug. So I'll demonstrate that in action now. You choose the background tab, you get minus 350, scroll back down, foreground tab, you get plus 150, so positive 150 in the foreground. Hit play, and as you can see the sprite is now in front of the player character. As another additional feature, scroll down again, if you select debug, you're able to move it on in any Y position you want. So it's quite handy if you get a bit of feedback about the Y values being wrong. The designer can literally move this to wherever he wants and then obviously report back to the programmer the the Y value is wrong, it needs to change the default values here to something else. So the normal Y is wrong for whatever reason. The background needs to be closer or further away, or the foreground needs to be brought a bit closer towards the camera, or it can even go to a bit closer to 0, that sort of thing. So I hope you find that useful. Thank you for watching my video, and if you like what you see, please subscribe and like, and feel free to leave a comment below if you have any feedback or suggestions. Take care guys, goodbye.